Okay, we are ready to get started. So let me just welcome everyone on behalf of REST, your real estate support team. Just want to let you know a little bit about what our mission is. Our mission is to support the real estate community by assisting the local real estate agents in providing key information of current industry changes and trends that fulfill the American dream of homeownership. And in that line of fulfilling the American dream, we've put together a series of classes, or I should say conversations we're having with some of the local pros to talk about things that are happening in the industry. We're going to do this once a month on the third Wednesday of the month. But today we have Jeff Ackerman and Jennifer Dittman with us to discuss 4-point inspection, wind mitigation reports, and how they affect homeowners insurance. But before we get started, a couple of housekeeping tips here. If you are on Zoom, please add your name, email address, phone number in the chat. If you are on Zoom and want to ask questions, there is a little reaction button at the bottom, and you can raise your hand and you can type your question in the chat. And then please stay muted. Once we recognize you with the question, unmute so we can have a conversation about what your question is. If you are in person, please silence your phones. Keep conversations down so the attendees don't hear you. And leave your business cards. If you have questions, raise your hands and we'll be sure to call on you. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. And my question is, are you good on all 4 points? So with us today, our first panelist is Jeff Ackerman. He's one of the owners of HomeTeam Inspection Service. HomeTeam Inspection Service is a residential and commercial inspection company that provides peace of mind to those making a major investment in a property. The company has serviced the Tampa Bay area for over 29 years and performed over 45,000 inspections. They cover Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas, and Western Polk counties. The Ackerman family purchased the company in 2019 and has successfully grown the company to its present state and earned a 4.9 rating on Google and an A+ rating with Better Business Bureau. There are now 3 generations of Ackermans working in that business. Also today, we have Jennifer Dittman. Jennifer Dittman is owner-operator of Brightway Insurnce, the Dittman Agency. Jennifer started her insurance career in 1995. And can I just say, she's seen a few changes. She's seen a few ups and downs in the industry. And one thing I can say about Jennifer is she is extremely good at keeping up with those changes on all the insurance needs, including flood insurance. So Jeff and Jennifer, are you ready to take our questions?
Absolutely.
We're ready.
Okay. Well, obviously the first question is, what is a 4-point inspection?
Okay, so a 4-point inspection is actually a requirement by the insurance industry if you want to get homeowners insurance. Some people think that if you pay cash, you don't need to get a 4-point, but whether you have a mortgage or pay cash has nothing to do with the issue of a 4-point. It's only if you want to get insurance. And in that inspection, we look at 4 things that's required by the insurance company. 1 is the electrical system. 2 is the plumbing system. 3 is the air conditioning system. And the 4th is the roofing system.
So how does that 4-point inspection affect the insurance?
Well, what the 4-point inspection does is tells us what condition these 4 points or these 4 items are. And even though you have a 4-point, it's got to pass the 4-point inspection. It's got to be a satisfactory. It can't be just a 4-point that shows, the wrong electrical panel, the roof is in bad condition. So a 4-point is just the beginning of looking at your policy. And that's why we suggest if you're looking at a house, the first thing you need to do when you put your offers accepted or your customer's offers accepted is get that 4-point done. Because if there's any issues, you want to take care of them before. And my suggestion is if there are issues and they get fixed, have the inspector come back and do a clean 4-point. So that when we present this to the company, there's nothing on it, because if there is something that's been fixed, then we've got a long succession of, we need receipts, we need all these things. So it's always best to present our companies with a clean 4-point. If you've got a brand new house, you probably won't need a 4-point. You'll probably do a regular home inspection. 4 points are for homes 20 years and older. And it depends on the company. Citizens, we all know, is 20 years. Some of the companies are 30 years and some of them are 40 years. Some of the companies will take a 4-point that's, under a year. Some of them want them within 30 days. So
Jennifer, let me just stop, because I've had a couple questions for people. We're still confused about what you find on a 4-point and how that might be different than an actual full inspection. So Jeff, this may be a better question for you.
Okay, so the 4-point is actually for the benefit of the insurance company. It's really not for your benefit, although you'll end up with getting insurance if you have a clean one. But the home inspection encompasses a lot more than just those 4 items. So for instance, it looks at the slope of the land to make sure your water is draining away from the home. It looks at it checks all your appliances. It opens and shuts windows and doors a lot, make sure they lock and function. None of that's included in the 4-point. And there's several other things. I'm sorry, somebody's waving. There are several other things that are included in the home inspection. So this, just because you get a 4-point does not guarantee you don't have problems within the home.
So if I'm understanding, the 4-point inspection is something that covers just the basic
4 issues.
4 issues. And that's done for insurance purposes kind of exclusively.
Right.
right.
Okay. And then the full inspection covers all of the different issues the house could have.
It's like a complete physical, top to bottom.
I like that. That's a great way of explaining it.
Right.
A physical on the house.
And I just want to say, don't send your insurance company the full
Well, yeah.
the full inspection, just the 4-point. Never give more than you're asked for.
Correct.
Yes. The insurance company really doesn't want to see everything. Okay, so we talked about the 4-point. There's also wind mitigation report. So what is that?
So the wind mitigation report is actually for your benefit to determine if you get any discounts on your homeowner's insurance. And in that inspection, we look at, first of all, the roof, the geometry of the roof. Depending on what kind of roof you have, you might get a discount. It also looks as to whether or not you have any storm protection on your windows and doors.
So then how does that wind mitigation report affect the insurance?
Well, you can get quite a discount just for having any roof that was put on after 2002. Okay, there's a credit for that. It is called an FBC credit. It has to do with the Miami-Dade regulations after 2002. So the newer the house, the newer the roof. So you might have a 1950 house, but if your roof was replaced from 2002 to right now, you will get the credit. If your roof was replaced before that, you're not going to get all the credits. You may get clips or straps, but so that wind mitigation is very important. It can give you discounts up to $3,000 or $4,000 on your home if you hit all of these things. And you don't know it till you have the report. We have to have the report, has to be in full with pictures in order to get you that discount. Those reports are good for 5 years. So if you change insurance after 2 years and you haven't done anything to your roof, you can use it. But if you get insurance after when it's 6 years old, even though nothing's changed, you have to get a new wind mitt in order to get the credits. And again, they're huge credits. There's something with people will have straps or clips and they'll say, well, I have straps or clips, but they only have 2 nails. So
is this where you can get an extra discount?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
The way your roof is attached to your house, it's either attached by toenails, which is usually older houses, which is just nails. Then you have clips, which are metal clips. Those clips have to have 3 3 nails to get the credit, and then they have straps. And the straps are those metal straps. Again, the clips have to have the 3. So all those boxes have to be checked. There is a company called Third Nail that will come out and they can put that 3rd nail in, and it would probably save you enough money in 1 year to pay for that to be done. Again, if you are, talking to your insurance agent, that's a good time to ask, okay, what kind of credit would I get if I put the 3rd nail in? And then you can make your decision from there. Say you don't want to do it this year, but you do it next year. At any time, you can get that credit for the next renewal. So, don't be afraid to ask the questions, because it's quite a savings. And sometimes people will get new roofs and they don't tell their insurance agent, and they go for a couple of years without that credit because they never got the wind mitt and they never got the insurance company the wind mitt. So it's always good to have that relationship.
So Jennifer, though, there is also a credit for secondary water resistance.
Correct.
And one thing I want to tell you about that is that some of these roofers only put that on in the valleys, and that will not get you the credit. This is something called peel and stick that goes over the roof decking before they put on the shingles. And if you're putting on a new roof, you want to make sure that they put that peel and stick on the entire roof deck, not just in part of it, because that way you can get that additional discount.
Right. And we have a couple companies now, probably because of that reason, that they want a little bit more information. Some of them want to see the receipt that the whole thing was done. I've run into that just recently. One of the companies said they don't give the SW that credit unless they see a receipt that it's been totally done. Because not all inspectors are as good as Jeff here. And some of them, we'll put things on inspections that really aren't correct, but the companies more and more now are going out and doing their own inspection. Some of them are drive-by, some of them are more intense. So the big thing
Jennifer,
they practice on is the
let me
roof.
pause you for a second,
No.
because to me, I think that comment you made is huge, because people don't realize that they're going to go after the closing, they're going to go inspect the property.
So don't think that, don't ask an inspector, to do something that's not there. They're there to be the eyes. They will report what they see. They're not trying to squash the deal. They're not trying to do anything. They're doing their due diligence in their job.
They're keeping your insurance from being canceled afterwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And those insurance companies, they're getting pretty strict on those things.
They will crawl up on a roof, and if there's too much granular loss, they will say that. So just because sometimes the wind mitt, especially if a roof is close to like the top of the line, like Citizens, if it's over, I think it's 20 years, they have to have their own roof certification on top of the 4-point. So things are getting really tight. So you want to make sure you're using, a top-notch inspector so that you're not going through all this.
I would just tell you that if you have a shingle roof that's 20 years old, it's very unlikely that it's going to pass a 4-point, because down here in Florida, roofs don't last that long. Even the architectural shingles that they sell are never going to exceed 20 years.
And how many people say to you, oh, but my roof is a 50-year guaranteed roof?
Right, exactly.
Not in Florida.
Interesting, when we just had our roof replaced, that's one of the things the roofer told us. That's why he's part of our real estate support team, is because he said, I'm going to tell you, it says 50 years, not in Florida. It won't happen. It's Florida. So guys, I want you to be thinking of questions that you have about wind mitt and 4-point. If you're on Zoom, type something in the chat, raise your hand. In the audience, raise your hand. But I want to go ahead. I saw one other question come through, actually 2. And Jeff, you kind of lightly touched on this, but what about the buyer that says, I don't want to pay for any inspections?
Well, they don't have to have a home inspection. And what that means is that they're going at full risk as to what might be wrong with the house. And you never know. And just a visual inspection by an uninformed person walking around in a house that's been newly flipped or just newly painted or whatever, you have no clue what's going on. You can't see in the attic, you can't see in the crawl space, you're not up on top of the roof. There's all sorts of things that you will never notice. And then when you move in and now you have problems because things are not working or they're broken or there's holes where you didn't think there were holes, that's your risk. On the other hand, if you don't want to pay for any inspections, you will not get insurance. And so you'll be at full risk for that too, because you have to have a 4-point to get insurance.
So basically, if you're getting a mortgage, you're going to have bare minimum do a 4-point in the wind mitigation.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, you don't have to do the wind mitigation. I don't think anybody cares whether you get discounts or not, but
Well, the 4-point though, if it's a newer home,
You don't need it.
you don't need it.
Good
Correct.
point. Good point. Newer home.
But a newer home, I would suggest you get a home inspection, because even though it's a newer home, we see claims all the time from newer homes, water, pipes not being right. I heard from one of a mold person, and they were at a new construction and it rained, and the construction company left the drywall in the rain. And the next day he came back and they had put it up in the house. So, don't think because it's a brand new house or even a couple years old that you don't need somebody to go look at it, because you do. You really do.
It really is one of those things that I cannot say enough about the value of getting a home inspection. It's one of the things I always tell people when I go over the cost estimate. Here's what your costs are. This includes everything but an inspection. And I have to show you all the costs that go along with a mortgage, and we don't require an inspection, but I highly recommend it. You really want to know what you're buying.
Absolutely.
So, Jeff, can you give people, what's the average cost of a home inspection?
Well, it depends on the square footage of the home, but for the home inspection itself, it's probably going to cost you $500. And then it's additional for the 4-point wind min or a termite inspection.
And those are all reports that could be needed on every house in Florida, especially.
Correct. And we do have termites down here.
We do.
And if you haven't got them now, you might have them tomorrow. But they're ubiquitous here, and there's 2 different kinds, and the subterranean ones are very aggressive and can cause structural defects if not treated. So they're all important inspections, and you're making them a major investment in your life, and you should want to know exactly what the conditions are and what you're buying, so you know how much money, if anything, you're going to have to put back into the house after you close.
So one other question that came up, and I'm seeing more and more of this, solar panels. Let's start with an inspection. And does that cover solar panels?
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not. The only thing we look for with regards to solar panels is if there's any signs of leaking where those solar panels are attached to the roof. But we are not qualified to check solar panels. And unfortunately, I've spoken to 3 different solar people who represent 3 different companies, and none of them will come out and check anybody else's solar panels. So if you have solar panels, it's best to ask the seller to show you their electric bills so that you can see whether or not they're actually saving any money, and that implies that the solar panels are working.
So when it comes to solar panels and you're buying a house with solar panels, from what I'm hearing, you're saying it's really crucial to keep all of that documentation to be able to pass on to the new buyer, because they're kind of going to have to go back to the original manufacturer for any specific questions.
That's correct. And if you have that information, you can get them to come out and check the system. But if you don't know who installed that and what the brand is, then good luck.
And then, of course, on the insurance side, solar panels bring up a whole nother set of issues.
Yes. And one of the big issues now are a lot of the companies aren't taking a house with solar panels. They'll take it if it's like solar for the pool, But there's different kind of solar panels. And again, I'm not an expert of solar panels, but a net metering, and that's where you get money back from your electric company, or they credit your bill because they store it. A lot of companies, one by one, will not, your home's not eligible for that company. As far as wind, a lot of them exclude the solar panels from wind. And then talking about installation, be careful if you do get solar panels that the installers know what they're doing, because so many times the solar panels have been drilled through and there's no protection. And now you have a leak. You call your insurance company and they say, sorry, it's not covered because, that was installation. So solar panels are a whole nother thing. And the more that they're coming into the market, the more companies are excluding things. So we'll probably down the line see a lot more things. So, they're just another animal. Again, there's good solar companies, and then there's
the worst thing I've seen,
others.
yeah, is the others that are happy to tell you the solar panels, but don't tell you that your roof isn't going to last that long. And you really should have a new roof before you put the solar panels on. Anyway,
yeah. And then you have leasing. You can lease the solar panels. Companies don't want the liability for that either, insurance companies. So, and so many times when we ask people about the solar panels, they have no idea what they purchased. And, you ask them and they have absolutely no idea. So
is there like a rating that your companies follow for solar, or is it just too new?
It's too new. I mean, I just know I'm learning more and more about them as they're coming onto the market. So my suggestion is, if you're going to get solar panels, talk to the insurance person to know what you can and can do, what's going to affect your insurance, because, don't do it after the fact. And then that's sometimes what we have people call and say, oh, I put solar panels and now we have to report that to the company, and now they get non-renewed and we have to find somebody else for them.
What happens in the instance where you put the solar panels on and you just forget to tell your insurance company? I mean, I could see people doing that.
Oh, all the time, all the time. And I don't want to say it's fine, but again, when it comes to a claim, because people think, well, if I don't tell my insurance company this, but then you're paying for something that is no good to you, because if you have a claim, they're going to deny it because you never told them you had the solar panels, and that's what caused the leak. So just because insurance companies don't know, doesn't mean, just like drivers in a household, some people don't want to disclose the drivers in the household. They drive your car, they get in an accident, that policy is now void. So why pay for something that's not going to help you? That doesn't make sense. So, and I know some of us, so again, call your insurance agent, have these discussions.
I know solar has been the newest hot button, and everybody I'm talking to is excited to get it. But I don't know if they've answered all those questions for themselves.
Correct.
Can I go back to the 4-point for a minute?
Sure.
Because some people have a difficulty understanding some of the components of that. First of all, let me just tell you this, that typically the seller has to fix whatever is deficient on the 4-point, because otherwise the home buyer cannot get insurance. And if they refuse to do it, you could negotiate to do it yourself and get a credit. But the thing is, you don't own that house yet, so you really can't go in and fix anything. So really the seller has to fix those. And that would be outside of your other negotiations. That's just a requirement, including if they say that we say the roof needs to be replaced. Now I'm going to put you on the spot here, because if the seller doesn't want to replace the roof but is willing to give the buyer a credit to replace the roof, there are some insurance companies that will give you 30 or 90 days of insurance pending replacement of that roof once you close.
With stipulations, they have to see a signed contract and a down payment.
On the roof.
On the roof.
Okay.
Yeah, they won't do it by, if you say, hey, I'm going to report, because once they're on that policy, if they okay it and it's a bad roof, Once they're on their policy, they're on that policy. So they want to make sure, and it's now, not many of them will give you 30 days and 60 days. A lot of them want it done beforehand. So it gets kind of tricky.
I heard from another insurance agent the other day that one of the reasons that that's happening is that we all know, well, a lot of us know, that a lot of the reasons insurance has risen so much in cost is the claims that were put in on old roofs that they said were from storm damage.
Correct.
Which is nice to get a roof for free. But when you have a 30-year-old roof and a storm comes through, it probably wasn't the storm, especially when they're getting full replacement on that roof. And what I heard was happening is that the new buyer, they were doing the 30 days to replace the roof. And the roofer came out and said, turn this in on your insurance.
Absolutely. And that's why insurance companies don't want to get on it, because once they're on it, they're on it.
Okay.
Wow.
So the other thing I wanted to say is that sometimes people get confused when we list a few items. For instance, on the electrical section, we might say that there were exposed wires or there was a double tap in the electrical panel, all of which need to be fixed. And yet we've checked the box that says the electrical system is satisfactory. So that question about satisfactory is specific to the electrical panel, whether it's in good shape and working, even if it's got a double tap and the system is all working. Same thing with plumbing, et cetera. So for instance, in electrical, the only time you're going to get unsatisfactory is if you had what's called knob and tube wiring, which is really old. The homes built 100 years ago had something called knob and tube. It should have all been replaced, and sometimes it's still there, but not active. Or if you have aluminum wiring in throughout the house and it's not been remediated, then it'll be unsatisfactory. Otherwise, you're going to see satisfactory, but you have all these issues. Just because it says satisfactory does not mean you don't have to fix all those things. Everything that's listed on that 4-point as a deficiency needs to be fixed before you can get the clean 4-point.
Right. Double
Very good
taps are a no-no. Exposed wires are a no-no. As far as plumbing, there are even citizens. There's no company that will take polybutylene. Polybutylene plumbing. And PEX plumbing, it has to be the newer. There's just a lot of stipulations that, you know, the 4-point, and it's up to the agent to read that 4-point, because like you said, it could say satisfactory. And so many times I see, you know, we see, oh, satisfactory, and then we move on and we put it through, and then it comes back at us because we didn't read the deficiencies. Because, you know, because your eye automatically, oh, it's satisfactory. But there's still those deficiencies. Just, you know, same thing on the roof, same thing on the air conditioner. If the air conditioner is not working, if it has never been updated, water heaters are huge. If your water heater is over 15 years old, most companies will require you to replace it. They want water heaters, and even if it's in the garage, because some people, well, if it's in the garage, it blows up. But if it's in the garage, it explodes, that water will seep into your house. It doesn't mean it's just going to run out the garage. So water heaters, because water claims are a big thing for insurance, they want those to be, you know, right now we even have to have the pictures of the showing how old the water heater is.
With the serial number.
Yeah.
So we recently had 2 homes I'll tell you about. One had a water heater that was 25 years old, still going strong, but nobody cared about that. The more important one was the water heater that was 42 years old. Unfortunately, it wasn't producing hot water, and I guess those folks were taking cold showers. But yeah, hot water heaters are a big item.
Yep.
I just want to circle back to the roof situation, because I know a lot of people are going, well, you know, this is a lot of money, $15,000, $20,000 for a roof. I had to turn it into my insurance company. Did you know that there's a state grant program to help pay for a new roof? I did not know that when I got my new roof, although I should have looked, because I used the same program to help replace my windows. You will have to pay for your whole roof, but you can get $5,000 to $10,000 back.
I did not know that.
My Safe Florida Home.
Right.
And that
Is
was
it in
told to
all,
me,
is it in all counties?
I believe it is. You'd really have to check. I didn't really get into the guidelines, but our roofer, Rescom Roofing, is the one that pointed that out to me. He said people don't need to turn those claims in when they can get money back from the state.
And that's, you know, that's huge.
That is huge.
Because also when we find, looking at claims, when we see a claim went through and the roofer replaced it, that $20,000 roof is a $40,000 roof.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, how come if I was going to pay for it, it's $20,000, my insurance company pays for it, it's $40,000. Well, the insurance companies paid for it, but guess what? We're all paying the premiums.
Well, yeah,
So-
I heard in a similar situation that the guy hired an attorney to get his roof. He got his roof at a cost of $40,000, and the insurance or the attorney's company, the attorney firm, got over $1 million.
Yep. What
Question
people,
online.
We've got a
Says-
couple questions going on here. Can you apply for the grant after the fact? I don't know. I would have to say probably not, but I didn't check it out. But it's My Safe Florida Homes. So please go online and check it out. I just found out about this the other day. And since we had this opportunity.
yep,
thought
I'm
I'd
going to check it
mention
out so that I can, you know, that's another thing. See,
Another
that's a
tool.
good thing about talking to people is this could be another tool that I have, that we all have to talk to people about that need the new roof. That could help in the long run, you know, help.
Did we have another question from the audience? I think that, oh, Kendall.
I have a question for Jeff. He's talking about the 40-year-old water heater and they were taking cold showers. So on the prospective new home buyer, I guess this would be for you really. Can I tell the insurance company, look, I don't care about hot water.
No,
No,
no, you
I mean,
know,
that doesn't seem, granted, in a civilized civilization, you know, yeah, you have hot water and you have a roof and all that, but to me, that doesn't seem like a necessary thing, like a roof, you know, or walls. Like that seems like, but go ahead.
well, you can think whatever you want to think. It's up to the insurance company what they will insure and what they won't insure. And on that 4-point, they want to know how old they're expecting. There is a water heater and they want to know how old it is. Because as Jennifer said, that if it's more than 15 years old, then it needs to be replaced. And you don't have to use it, but they want to make sure that it's one that's capable of providing hot water and not going to leak.
I'm sure things that insurance are just like they are in mortgage, where it's kind of standard across the United States. And they're going to not let people in Maine not have hot water, but they don't want to worry about if you're in Florida or Maine.
yeah, and they're not going to, again, it's risk. Just like say, hey, my son never drives my car, but there's the opportunity that car is available for that son that had 3 DUIs to jump in your car. So they want to know that son's there, and either you have to exclude him or you have to pay for him on your insurance. Same thing with the house. If you have a 42-year-old water heater, you know, you may say, well, I'm never going to use it, but I mean, how do they know that you're not going to turn it on and try to see if it's going to work and it blows up, you know? So insurance is all on risk and, you know, what could happen. So plus you can't say, well, you can have a 42-year-old one, but you can't. So it's all got to be, like she said, it all has to be standard.
I'll just take it out of the house at that point.
We have another question from the audience.
Yes, Diana, we have a question coming in about tankless water heaters.
There's no,
additional discount or,
and there's no age limit on that
Isn't that interesting?
because they're not going to spill water.
Well, then the risk is less. So you should
Exactly.
be getting a discount for that.
You should be, but you're not going to.
boy,
I'm just saying, it's good for the goose.
you've been in dumpsters for friends.
Yeah, go back to your dumpsters.
Any other questions from the audience?
I want to say one more thing about electrical panels. We all know about the bad ones, which is Zinsco, Federal Pacific, Zinsco, GT Sylvania,
Challenger.
and Challenger.
Not that Jeff wanted to be sure we knew exactly.
Yeah,
which
now
ones they
citizens
were.
will take a bad panel, so it may be, if they won't change the panel, you know, you can get written in citizens and then once you change it. And that's the other thing we do is we look at, it's like, okay, if the seller's not going to fix this, but it'll fit into this company, once you get it fixed, we can put you into this company. So there's always that too, because not all companies have the same rules.
One more question from the audience?
Question?
So if you're mid-stroke and you comply, you can just switch your insurance right mid-policy?
Absolutely.
Well, that's interesting.
Okay, so let's talk about what that looks like for a minute, because a lot of people with mortgages get kind of confused about that. Jennifer, you want to talk about what that would look like?
Yeah, say you have an annual policy, and 6 months in, you fix whatever needed to be fixed, and we can rewrite you in another company. Okay, now on your part as the consumer, you're going to need to let your mortgage company know, because we're going to write it. We're going to bill your mortgage company. They're going to see this other bill come in and they're going to go, we already paid one. So if you tell your mortgage company, because we're going to cancel this other policy. Now, here's the other caveat. When we cancel that, you're going to get a return premium. 99% of the time, they're going to send it back to you. It is up to you to get that back into your escrow so that next year your escrow is not short. So, and we walk our customers through that when that happens. We let them know step by step what to do, because if you just rewrite it and say the agent doesn't cancel the other policy and your mortgage company does happen to pay this other one, you know, so you want to make sure it's done right. But yeah, it can be done. We do it all the time. But, you know, it's the agent and the customer have to do their due diligence and follow up on this stuff to make sure everything gets paid and everything else.
And I wanted you to mention that because I cannot tell you how many times I have heard from customers mad because their escrow account went up. And when I asked them what happened, they changed insurance, they got the refund back, and they spent the money.
So now they not only paid for that policy, they paid for this policy, because mortgage companies are kind of fickle. Sometimes they just pay bills, you know, when they come in, you know, escrow accounts, sometimes they just throw them away and ignore them. So it's our due diligence and the customer's due diligence to make sure that your accounts are correct.
Yeah, and in that instance, it was $1,200. So he now had to pay us back $100 a month. And he was like, well, that's not fair. And I said, but you spent the money.
And I always tell my customers, it's like, if you get that check, you need to call your mortgage company. You need to put it back into your escrow. Make sure you tell them for your escrow and it doesn't go on your principal, or, you know, because it's like, well, because it can be a mess if you don't follow up. But if you do follow up, it can be pretty easy.
Okay, any other questions so far on the 4-point and wind mitigation inspection reports?
How much do you pay for, I mean, how much do you charge for a 4-point and just a wind mit? Because that one's not $500 for the two.
No, so if you just need the 4-point and wind mit and that's it, it's $239. If you're doing it with a home inspection, we discount it $50, so it'd be $189.
So I have a
The size
question.
of the home.
What was that?
Hold on. Too many people talking at
Yeah, it
once.
depends on the size of the pump.
But not the 4-point. And see, the reason I say that is because some people are in their home, we're changing their insurance and they have to get a new 4-point wind mit. So they're not buying the home, so they don't need the whole inspection. They just need those two things.
So here's another question for you, because sometimes, like yesterday, I got a note from an agent that we're buying a new home. We need the home inspection and a 4-point. I don't think we need the wind mit because the sellers got one last year. My understanding is if it's not in the buyer's name, it doesn't count.
It depends on the company.
Okay.
Citizens, it has to be in the buyer's name. Also, Citizens require that the wind mit, not the 4-point, but the wind mit have the customer signature. So, which usually doesn't happen because they usually get the wind mit electronically from them.
Yeah.
So what we do is we put it in the package when we send off to sign and have them sign it. Because us as agents from Citizens, we get violations if we send in a wind mit that's not customer signed. So the Citizens does not want business. So they make it very tough on the consumers and the agents. So we have to dot every I, cross every T, everything has to be perfect, or Citizens, you know, they're not really a company. They're not looking for business.
What if the 4-point, the seller got a 4-point pre-listing 4-point? Can the buyer use that, or do they have to have one in their own name?
It depends. Citizens, they'd have to have one in their own name. Other companies may accept. As long as it has the address on and it's in their time frame. So each company is different what they require.
Okay,
I still think that 4-point and wind mitigation upfront before you list the property sounds like a really good idea. Hear from some of the agents on that, what they're running into. We'd love to hear that.
I have a technical question for Jeff.
Okay, another question from the audience.
Yes. Many homes, as you know, in Florida are just a hair above flat roof, right? Like the pitch is so ridiculous. How are you able to determine whether or not they have 3 versus 2 nails in there?
you cannot. Because they don't have attic access, because there is basically no attic. And so we cannot identify how that roof is attached to the house. And they are not going to get that kind of
Right,
distance.
they're gonna check unknown.
Right,
Sounds like a good opportunity for a micro drone to go in there. I'll work on that for you, Jeff.
there you go.
I'm pretty sure those flat roofs like that probably aren't anything but nailed on.
Right.
I'd be surprised, which it brings up another thing is a lot of companies don't want roofs like that because the water can set on it.
Well, they're technically not flat, but they're so, the
But
pitch
they-
is so
Right,
low.
Yes,
that-
they look at pitches.
Yeah.
So if it's low like that,
here's one other thing about, since you brought that up. Newer construction today are doing things to reduce the amount of heat in the attic. So they might put in an aluminum foil barrier on the underside of the deck, which controls the temperature in the attic. The downside to that, by the way, is that we can't see the underside of the deck, so we don't know if there's a leak. But the other method is to use spray foam, and they foam the entire attic, all right, between the rafters. And now we cannot see how that roof is attached to the house. So in a new construction, it's not a problem because it's built to code and the
Right.
insurance company knows.
automatically gives the,
But in a remodeled home, such as a friend of mine bought, we could not see it. And the only way to find out how that roof is attached, and it was an older home, is to cut away some of that foam so that you can get to where the roof is attached to the house. And he couldn't do that as the buyer because he didn't own the home yet. And the seller wasn't going to give him permission. So once he closed, we went back and opened up some of that area, could determine that, and he saved $2,100 on his insurance premium.
and again, so you can, if you get it after the fact. And like that, we can turn that in and they would just credit you the $2,100 or whatever. Because that's a pretty good significant. If you look on your insurance policy, you'll see the kind of mitigation credits. You'll see mitigation credits, and then you'll see the amount of what that mitigation.
Yep. Mention one other thing. And I forgot what the one other thing was.
Senior moment.
Yeah. It'll come back to me. I wanted to talk about the other inspections that you do. Jeff, let's start with your inspections because there's quite a few and they cover quite a few different things. So could you just tell us what some of the other inspections are?
Sure. So we do the insurance inspection, we do the termite, which is called wood destroying organism, or WDO, because there's more than just termites that eat wood. We do sewer scopes, recommended for anybody who's still got cast iron sewer lines because they disintegrate. And we do mold testing. We can do the septic tank testing. I think that's about it. Oh, radon testing.
And then how would people schedule an inspection report with you?
So they can either call the office at 813-632-0550, or they can go online and schedule the inspection themselves.
And online is at,
Online is at hometeam.com/Tampa-Bay.
awesome, good to know. Good to know. And then Jennifer, I know you have other insurance besides just the homeowner's insurance. One of the big ones is flood,
Mhm.
but before we talk a little bit more about flood, tell us about the other policies that you write.
Okay, we do all lines of personal, which is, we do the homes, we do autos, we do boats, RVs, jet skis, golf carts. A big one is an umbrella policy, which is a liability policy that covers all the liability on all of your toys and house and car. We do small business insurance, we do just, standalone liability. The one thing is, the one thing about Citizens is if you get a Citizens policy, they only offer $100,000 in personal liability. Okay, and if you have an umbrella, umbrellas will require your underlying insurance to be, at least 300,000, 500,000. We do have a company that will write that gap for a couple $100 a year. So a lot of our higher end, our clients that want that, even if they don't have an umbrella, they want that at least $300,000 to $500,000 protection, because liability, if say somebody gets hurt on your property, they sue you, whatever, that's what your liability is going to cover. So we do have options for that. We're an independent agent, so we can go outside the box and find, whatever it is you need.
So senior moment, I remembered. The thing I wanted to address before we left the inspection was that we all know how property prices have been increasing, and for first-time home buyers, it's been a real struggle. So a lot of them have been searching for mobile homes, or I should say manufactured homes on land. Interestingly enough, we have recently found that any mobile homes, manufactured homes, prior to 1994 have issues getting insurance. The cost we got for one in Southwest Florida, unfortunately, was $6,000. And that was checked through like 50 different agencies. And that was the best you could get. Frustrating. Very
Yes,
frustrating.
and the problem with mobile home insurance too, we have companies that will write mobile homes older than 1994. Here's the thing, they only do actual cash value. So you may only get, even Citizens, you're only going to get $28,000 for that mobile home, even though maybe you paid $150,000. Well, the mortgage companies, they don't want that. They need more coverage. So yeah, we're finding that gray area. And if you can get replacement costs, if you've got a brand new mobile home, just like anything, it's not too bad. But the older the home gets, the more expensive the insurance is, and then also the less coverage you get. So, that's a huge thing. Some people, they buy the mobile home if you're like on a property that you're renting, so the mobile home may not be that expensive. They really don't, and they don't have a mortgage on it, they'll buy, just a liability policy.
I know before we get into flood insurance a little further, I wanted to mention that I'm also hearing from several agents, including you, Jennifer, that a lot of the changes that recently were legislated, the inability to file a claim, what is it, longer than a year after?
2 years.
2 years after storm, is going to help some of these claims that have been out there keeping or forcing the insurance up. But it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
It's going to take time.
It's going to take at least 18 months before we
Yeah.
see all this come out. And the multiplier for the attorneys, what a lot of people don't know is when an attorney, or when you sue your insurance company, that attorney is being paid if he wins by the insurance company. Now, he may take 30% of whatever he gets you, but he's also getting paid on the other side. And there's a multiplier on these things. In Florida, there's very few states that have this, and that's what we've gotten rid of. And that's why you see all these billboards. So it's something to be aware of, but yeah, they're shortening the time of when, because, we would get Irma claims on roofs 3-4 years after Irma. Well, if your roof was damaged in Irma, it would have
You would
shown
know.
before 3-4 years. So they're shortening that, but it's going to take a while for this all to,
Question from the peanut gallery.
yes.
From the audience.
That's right, in the audience. So, okay, so I want to take your Irma example. So we made it through Irma and our roof had no damage. But then, I don't know, over time, the next couple of years, it has damage to it. Does there have to be a specific event associated with the damage to your property in order to file a claim?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in other words, the insurance company, it sounds like maybe they have two different types of damage. One would be damage due to a natural occurring event, or what they would call a normal wear and tear. Right? So normal wear and tear not covered, natural event is covered.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. Or if you say your roof starts leaking from a storm, and this is the other thing, and you don't call it in, but it leaks and it leaks and it leaks and it leaks, that nulls your cover, that voids your coverage. Because it's your due diligence to get up there and make sure your roof isn't leaking after a storm, to put the tarp over if it is. So if you have, say, a busted pipe in your kitchen and you just let it go and you don't do anything, and then 6-7 months later you got all this mold because you didn't do anything. Now, and if you read your policy, now it's your due diligence to make sure you stop that. If you're, turn off the water, for heaven's sakes. People call and their water's still running. It's like, turn off the water. Or the toilet's overflowing. Turn off the water. Don't let it keep flowing. So,
All right, so follow up.
yes.
Just playing devil's advocate here. So I'm at home, it's a Sunday, it's raining. There has been no natural, disasters within a 6-month window of this time frame. And I notice my roof is leaking. What I don't call that in because it's not gonna be covered, or?
Correct. That's wear and tear.
Okay.
Because
My
that's
safe Florida home.
Yeah, because your roof is going to wear. If nothing caused it, because insurance takes care of things that happen, quickly. Like a sudden burst of a pipe. If your pipe is leaking and it's been leaking, that may not be covered, or the damage may be covered, but the pipe, So again, each claim, and that's why I'm not a claims adjuster. I don't say I am. So I can't tell you if it's going to be covered or not, to be honest with you. I'm just telling you what I've seen. If you want to call it in as a claim, I would call your insurance agent first and have that conversation, because once you call it in as a claim, it's on your record, whether it gets paid or not, and you may have to explain it. Yeah. So, again, your agent is not, and I want to say that we are not claims adjusters. Insurance is to interpretation. It depends on why and how they determine, did that leak come from that hailstorm that was 3 weeks ago? I don't know. So, I can't say, yes, that's going to be covered. No, that's not going to be covered. So even when I say there's a possibility that, they'll deny the claim, I don't know that. So I can only give you, what I know, and I don't know claims. And without seeing people call and say, well, I have a leak, is it covered? I don't know. Depends on where it came from.
So we've got 5 minutes left. Are there any other questions? Because there was a lot of questions about our topic. Are you good on all 4 points? Well, the problem is with 5 minutes left, I don't think we have time to cover flood insurance accurately or appropriately. We may have to do another, and we do have several of these scheduled. But if there's no other questions about the general insurance, I wonder if we could just, Jennifer, tell us, what does a flood insurance policy cover?
Flood insurance covers rising water, tidal water, outside water coming up from the ground. It's not a pipe. It's not, that's your homeowners. It's outside water, storm surges, anything like that. It's not inside water. It's outside rising water. In order for your flood policy to take effect, it has to either affect 2 adjacent properties or at least 2 acres. Now, I don't know any flood that wouldn't, if there's a flood, that it wouldn't cover that. So, but, you know, again, if anybody has any questions, call their agent. You can call me 727-493-0918. You can email me at jennifer.dittman@brightway.com, or anyone in my office will be able to answer these questions. Because there's just a lot, you know, you could talk all day about insurance and still not get all the answers. So have a good relationship with whoever your agent is and make sure they can answer your questions, or at least get back to you or tell you there's no answer.
I just want to say that I work with both of these guys on a regular basis. I really appreciate Jeff and HomeTeam for the extra customer care service they give. There's always somebody out there when they do the inspection to basically keep buyer, seller, whoever's there from freaking out. And the way they present things, I think, is awesome. We have a little minor thing we need to address. Not, oh my gosh, as some inspection reports will do. So I really love these guys. Also, I can call them at any time with questions, and they are right there to help. Customer service galore. Oh, and did I mention Margot's makes the best cookies? And Jennifer, I really appreciate Jennifer and her whole team. I reach out to her all the time from the very beginning of a transaction, sometimes when they're just making an offer. So I have a general idea of insurance and what I'm up against, all the way through the transaction, including all of these questions that are brought up. I bring right to her and her team, and they help answer all of them, and they do it in an expedited manner. So I really, really appreciate both of these guys.
Thank you.
Any other last minute questions or comments? I just want to mention that we will be doing a power pitch on the second Wednesday of the month from 10 to 11. We are doing this at Ready for Life. This is at 2300 Tall Pines Drive in Largo, or you can watch it on Zoom. And we are going to continue our conversation with the pros the third Wednesday of the month. It will either be from 10 to 11 or 12 to 1, depending on when I can get our pros together. Trying to get a couple of attorneys together, and their schedules are just a little challenging. So we'll bring those to you. We'll let you know. And then also, are you trying to get eyes on a property? You want to do a broker's open? Let Rest help you with a house party. We'll get eyes on the party. You can visit us at restpartners.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/Rest Tampa Bay.
And if you like us on Facebook, you'll get all this information as it comes out.
You will, and this is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube, and you can get a link to that as well. Thank you two very much for
Thank
coming.
you. Appreciate it.
Everyone, have a great day.